Now, I think we have Mary Kennedy on the line. Good morning, Mary.
Good morning, Damien. How are you?
I'm wonderful, thanks. And I think we're also joined by John Nolan. Is John there?
I am indeed. How are you?
Good morning, John. I'm very well, thank you. Thank you so much for joining us. You're taking a little break, or are we getting you just before you start your next routine?
Well, John, you tell them.
Go on, John.
We're just literally standing in the dance studio waiting to walk in, so you just caught us just at the right time.
What are you, Mary? What's in store for the week ahead? Before we talk about last night and the last few weeks, what's in store? Can you tell us?
No, can't tell you what the dance is, but a lot of hard work. John is a great teacher, I have to say, and he's great from the student's point of view, and that he kind of realises what you're going through and what you're not able for. So, yeah, it'll be full on for the week, but it's great. I'm really enjoying it. It's a lovely way to spend January. You know, look at the weather outside is awesome, and we're here dancing.
Mary, tell our listeners, how did you start this? Is it 4 or 5 weeks ago? How much work? You're training 6-7 hours a day. You've lost weight. You didn't need to lose any weight. It's just, tell us about it.
Well, there was a little bit of damage done over Christmas now, Damien, in fairness. So, but I think it's gone now. After all of yes, it's full on. It's physical. It's training. It's also takes a little bit of time to be comfortable, because, I suppose anybody who's not a dancer has a shyness about their body. And, you've got to allow yourself to use it and to open yourself up to it. But it's fabulous. It's really, really great. I'm really enjoying it. And I know that there's a tradition of ballroom and Strictly down in the Deise, isn't there, with Betty Mulcahy and the
Yes,
Strictly
very
Deise.
much so, yeah.
So, you know what it's like. It's lovely for people who are not dancers to take on the challenge and to step outside their comfort zone, and it's a great privilege to be taught how to dance by somebody like John.
John, tell me, Mary, and you would have had a chat beforehand in terms of the level of physical attributes she have, in terms of she does a lot of running. She's relatively very fit, 65 years of age. Do you have to take that on board when you're saying, okay, this is how we're going to work the particular routines? Because it's very, very demanding, as Mary says.
Absolutely, you're bang on there. It is demanding, but I tell you, Mary put a lot of those younger people to shame with her fitness abilities on the show. Honest to God, she's fantastic. We're working a lot on stretching and flexibility and like that. And already now Mary's improved hugely. She's now touching the ground, which is fantastic. She couldn't even get to knees before. So, she's working so hard in the studio.
I'll be doing somersaults next.
I said, well, don't be giving all the secrets away, Mary.
In terms of touching your toes, then, you're talking about hamstring stretches and literally stretching that body out to make yourself more flexible.
Absolutely. For dancing, your body is being stretched in so many different ways that you would never stretch it before. So to be able to have the flexibility is really important. But Mary's such a great student to work with. Literally everything I've asked her to do so far, she's done 1,000%. And I think people will be pleasantly surprised come Sunday when they see her for doing the first dance.
Give us a little, give us a taster. Give me something to go on, John.
I would say people are going to see a very elegant dance to a classic Irish tune. That's all I'll say.
Okay, that's okay. That's good. I like that. Mary, can I ask you, in terms of that dynamic between student and teacher, you're mentally trying to get something on board and getting your brain to talk to your feet. How is that demand from mental tiredness as well as physical tiredness?
That is the hard job. It's not so much mental tiredness, but it's just knowing in your head and trying to tell your feet what to do. It doesn't always happen, in synchronicity or whatever the word is.
Yeah.
But it's just, for me, learning something, it's about repetition. Yes. And John always says, no, we'll do it again. And he says, if we have to do it 100 times until you get it, we will do it 100 times. So, for me, yes, but I'm happy to just do it, and I don't mind repetition. I'm very happy to just keep at it, and I'm really pleased with what I've learned about dancing. John spoke about flexibility and form and the way you hold your body, and it's funny. There's a photograph on the front of the Irish Examiner of the two of us from last night, and it's a kind of a backwards. I don't know what to call it. But anyway, I said, I bet you'd say that my head isn't far back enough. But then he said, well, that's good that you recognise that now. So that's good.
John, was her head not back far enough in that pose?
I thought it was brilliant for the first night. First night was fantastic. We'll get further next week.
What do you do? Like, will there be moments, they talk about in relationships, that you get moments where you just have to walk out of the room and take a deep breath. You don't want to have a raging row. Like, how do you make sure that you're teaching and not infuriating somebody?
As Mary said, Mary's never ever danced before, so I understand that. I've been teaching for 10 years now. I understand that when people walk in the door, they don't know their left from their right, their head from their toes. So, to take on a challenge like this, to learn to dance, to do it in front of the nation is a massive challenge. So I'm a positive person. I kill them with kindness, and to get out in front of the nation, to dance and then to do it in front of the nation is a massive challenge. So I have a lot of respect for anybody who takes on this show. So I think being negative doesn't help the situation. We just work hard, do over and over and over again, and like that, I do it 1,000 times till we know it.
Mary, did you take advice from the likes of Marty or other people that have done it before?
Actually, Marty was so sweet. He's last week he was away, and he phoned me on his way to the airport, and I missed the call. And when I phoned him back, he was obviously gone. I think he was over in Abu Dhabi or someplace.
Yes.
So he texted me, and he just said, take it step by step, and most of all, enjoy it and smile. And that's the thing that John has always said as well: just smile. It wants me to get that scarified look off my face, but we managed it by last night. But when you're actually in the setting, and the audience is in, and the lights are shining and the music is playing, it's much easier to smile than it is when you're maybe in a dress rehearsal or an ordinary rehearsal where it's an empty room. So there was a lovely energy on the set of Dancing with the Stars last night, and I think that's something that comes across and is part of the whole production. Even when we're going around and having cups of coffee or meeting with members of the crew, there's a lovely vibe, Damien, and it's nice, and it's positive, it's warm, and it's physical, and it's exhilarating. That's the way I would describe it.
That's a lovely description, because the texts are flooding in to say how great you are and what you've done and how great you looked, and you've an amazing pair of legs, as Philip Nolan says in the paper today, and other people commenting about your dress and your poise, and you looked quite comfortable last night dancing, which is lovely. No, compare. It's like the duck, very smooth on the surface, jumping around under the water. Like, I know you for many, many years, and you were a very modest person, and you like mixing with the crews as well and having the chat and just taking that all in, and that's so important that you embrace the occasion, isn't it? Yeah, there's great banter, and I think that's important, because if you didn't have that, it would, I don't know, just be a bit too serious, and I'm not somebody who takes myself too seriously. Yes. So I love the time that I spend here in the studio with John, and then it's lovely to go and interact with the other learners and also the other pro dancers, and they are all so helpful and so encouraging. Anyone who saw the program last night will have seen that when any of the guys danced, they got the most wonderful support from us. Yes. Up in Nikki's place, and we were genuinely rooting for them. And I hope the same will be true next Sunday, that they'll be rooting for us. I know it will. How far? I know you've got to go. I'm sorry for taking you so long. I just love having a chat with you. It's great to talk to you again. And John, do you think Mary can win it? Everything is possible. Mary, the first time I met Mary said, "John, I'm delighted you won it last year, because you won't be winning it this year." I said, "No, that's a challenge I'd like to take on." Mary, how far?
Damien, we hope that we'll be getting the support from the Deise,
Yes.
because, I do love going down to Waterford. You know, we have good pals down there.
Great pals, Susie and Brian Walsh and Melanie and everybody in the office and Conan and so many different people in the team, and you've done a lot around Waterford and the southeast, and the programme goes into South Kilkenny, into Wexford and into Tipperary. So I know a lot of people are listening this morning. We'll be asking all our listeners and viewers through Facebook to make sure to vote for you.
To vote early and often, and every week. It's not enough to do it next week now.
Yes. How far do you think you can go in this, or how far would you like to go?
I'm taking it week by week. I'm just loving it. And I know what I'm doing this Sunday, and I know what we're doing the following week, and it is totally different from what we're doing this Sunday. And it's just so nice to be able to do this. And it's a very nice, for me, a lovely transition from Nationwide to be doing like this, which is so different and yet so lovely, as was Nationwide. I really enjoyed all of that as well.
Yeah, and a special mention to Neelis as well, who's worked with you for many years with RTE.
Absolutely, yeah.
And Dawn has texted in from Tremorty. Tell Mary Nationwide will never be the same without you. A lovely, genuine lady, and the very best of luck, and other people wishing the very best. We'll let you get back into it. Listen, thank you so much, Mary, for joining us. John, thank you so much.
Damien. Happy
Lovely,
New Year.
thank you.
Many happy returns, and the best of luck to both of you. God bless. Take care.
Thanks a lot.
Bye.
Bye.
That's John and Mary there. John Quinn, who is dancing with John Nolan, who's dancing with Mary, her dance partner, and Mary Kennedy of RTE fame. Mary single-handedly promoted Waterford business and communities nationwide, says Maggie. Vote Mary. Other people texting in. As I said, Dawn and Tremora and others have been texting in as well. We've had a few texts from different people over in Wexford. A text from one of the Whelan family to thank us for the lovely piece we did this morning. So glad it was mentioned for people to stay away from the coastline. It's treacherous over here at the moment. Some boats were intending to search today, but it's not looking likely at the moment. Visibility remains very, very poor. So if you're out there at all on the coastline, do take care. Now our text number 083 3333 975. You can call Laura on 051 846 123. Paddy phoned in, talk about shopping locally. He was buying a camera for Christmas, an expensive one. He went and looked in the different shops. There wasn't too much of a price difference, but online it was a lot cheaper. Very difficult, Paddy, for local retailers sometimes to keep up with certain items. And I know a lot of people do go online. I think the message from this morning was other people saying it's good to hear that the city centre spending is up, says Jack. He texted in to our WhatsApp number. But again, it has to continue. So if there's a 5-10% increase, that's where we need jobs. So if you are going to buy some stuff online, you can't stop people from buying things online. But certainly in terms of spreading the money around a bit, it is so important. Miriam, good morning.
Good morning, Damien.
Thanks very much for joining us. Miriam Tabor, Communications and Marketing Manager for Drink Aware. Is that correct?
That's absolutely right, yeah.
Are you doing a sober January? Are you actually doing a sober January yourself?
Myself, I actually am, believe it or not. And I'm teaming up with, the usual, a renewed effort to get more fit. And, the new year is just a good time to reevaluate things and, I suppose, get a fresh start and a jump on the year.
I suppose you would have to be doing it because it'd be bad if you weren't in some respect. It's a long old month, January. Like, we're talking about 5 weekends, aren't we?
It is, absolutely. But I think it's, important, I suppose, for no more than myself, but for everybody. Obviously Christmas is a time when all of us, everyone tends to drink a bit more than they usually would. But I suppose from Drinkware's point of view, for people who feel like they may be drinking a bit too much and maybe too often in general, so outside of these peak times like Christmas, making small changes to drink less over time is a really good way to do it. So, obviously giving your body a break from alcohol for a month is fantastic, but you will experience much more benefits if you cut down or cut out in the long term. So it's more consistent throughout the year.
We're only talking in the studio here earlier with Jennifer from the Irish Times and Julie about New Year resolutions, and if you feel bad about doing a resolution and then you break it, like if somebody is doing a giving up alcohol for the month of January or for longer, even up until St. Patrick's Day, 75 days till St. Patrick's Day, I think, from January the 1st. And if they do have a drink or decide to have something, like, should they feel bad about it?
I mean, I think it's human nature to, break habits, so it can be hard, especially if you're coming out of a time, as I say, like Christmas, when things tend to peak and there's lots more overindulgence across the board. It's not just alcohol, it's eating things that you probably wouldn't normally eat, much more sweets and junk food and things like that. But, I don't think we should berate ourselves if we have the odd slip up. But, we know from our own research as well that the huge impact, it's well documented, the impact that alcohol consumption in general can have on people's mental health. And I think if you're talking about, looking at yourself and going, oh, well, I had that one drink when I said that I'd be giving up for a month, I don't, that's going to have a negative impact on your mental health. So I think, looking at it in that context as well, you have to cut yourself a break as well and go that it is human nature,
Yeah, and there was a big article in the magazine section of the Sunday Independent yesterday, different 5 or 6 journalists and celebrities talking about a re-evaluation of their relationship with drink. That can be another way of maybe looking at it, that it gets you to think about literally why one would take a drink, whether is it for the taste, is there a semi-addiction there, is there something underlying why people would drink and why people drink.
Absolutely, and I think that's a really important point, because I think things like dry January or Stoptober, or the traditional, it used to happen November in Ireland, people would stop drinking. We need to look at, like you say, our relationship with alcohol, but it's about breaking the social norm that exists in Ireland around alcohol consumption and certainly drinking to excess. And in Ireland, alcohol is needed to celebrate, commiserate, socialise and things like that. And also our Drink Aware Index shows that 3/4 of Irish adults actually believe that drinking to excess is just a part of our culture. So if we're talking about reevaluating our relationship, we're looking at why it is that we drink. We kind of have to start there, because before we address, how it impacts culture, the benefits to society will only happen of lower alcohol consumption across the board if we look at that relationship. So as I said before, over 2/3 of 18 to 24-year-olds actually use alcohol as a coping mechanism. So that's compared to the rest of the drinking population, which is at about 50%. But then another crucial thing is 70% of under 25s cite conforming with peers as a motivation for drinking alcohol, which is the highest of all age groups. So these are simple things that we think we might kind of grow out of when we leave school, but they're, the reasons cited were to fit in with a group you like, to be liked, or so you won't feel left out. So I think if we're, evaluating our relationship with alcohol, we really have to start at the basics. And, as you said there, think about why we drink, and maybe it is time to make a change. Okay,
well, hopefully this little conversation we've had might get some people thinking about it, because it's never too late to give it a go. Even, for example, if they say on a Monday, OK, I'm not going to have a drink until Friday night, even that can be helpful for people, because, as you say, the damage, the long-term damage that excessive alcohol intake, it's phenomenal, the amount of damage it can do to the body and to the health service.
Absolutely. Ultimately, the hope would be that by people doing month-long initiatives like Dry January or Stoptober, it would be that they do reassess their relationship with alcohol in the long term. So maybe throughout the year they'll notice themselves drinking a bit less and find that their motivations for drinking in the beginning are actually slipping away. They've refocused their energies towards things like fitness goals, because, alcohol is full of calories and sugars, so things like that aren't going to help if you're putting in all that effort in the gym or, in exercise classes or things like that. But ultimately, as you say, the health risks associated with excessive drinking are well documented. The most kind of widely known, I suppose, would be at least 7 different types of cancer, high blood pressure, heart disease and stroke, which are huge, huge issues in Ireland. They're one of the top, heart disease is one of the top killers in Ireland. And then, of course, as I mentioned before, mental health. So, by drinking less throughout the year and, reassessing your relationship with alcohol through month-long initiatives like this, you will be helping to reduce kind of, I suppose, unnecessary risks to your long-term physical and mental health.
Miriam, thanks very much for joining us, and the best of luck.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. Miriam Tabor there, Communications and Marketing Manager for Drink Aware. So are you doing a sober January? Do you think it's something that people anybody who has a drink. There's a lot of people that don't drink, but if you do have a drink, is it something that people should try? Text us in, let us know what you think. 083 33 975, or you can call Laura on 051 846 123. Laura's just sent me in a text on our internal system here saying, oh no, it can't be Monday. And a GIF. You can't beat an old good GIF on a Monday especially. Stay with us. We're going to be talking about holidays and all things good at WIT. Sean, good morning.
Good morning, Damien.
How are you?
I'm very good.
Good. Monday morning, first Monday in January. It's a busy time for travel agents. You are with Harvey Travel. Harvey Travel celebrating 75 years in business. Is that right?
That's correct, yeah. Originally the company was called Harvey and Son. It was across the road from us here, and there was 5 or 6 businesses in that.
Okay.
But the company, Harvey and Son, which then became Harvey Travel Limited, is 75 years in business this year.
And who was the original Mr. Harvey?
The original Mr. Harvey, his name actually was a Mr. Charles Jacob.
Okay.
His father-in-law, Mr. John Harvey, was the original owner, but Mr. Charles Jacob ran 5 businesses from 12 Gladstone Street. And there was a house and insurance agency, a stockbroking business. There was the Waterford Penny Bank. And then the travel was very, very small, I suppose. I came into that 55 years ago, but travel was an unknown quantity at that stage. But, it began to take off year by year. So we're celebrating 75 years this year.
And you got into the business as a young gossoon, did you?
That's exactly it. I began into the business as a young gossoon. I remember going to matches and putting stickers on people's cars, the leaflets, to sort of say there was a trip going to Spain next week. Would you like to go? So, there was no WLR, there was no big advertising. So I suppose the way to do it was walk the streets and see could you get business from it. So that's the way it worked. I suppose it worked from there on in, and thankfully we're here to live the tale.
And did you ever think of leaving the business? I know I've met you on the quay sometimes, even before 8 o'clock. You're in bright and early, nearly 8 o'clock every morning, and your enthusiasm for it, Sean, fair play to you.
Well, I love the business. I think the one thing that I like about it, when people come in here, they're in good humour. It's not like going to a dentist or a solicitor or a doctor, right? You're coming in to try and find something for yourself. And I think, if the people come in here, we like to send them out in a better humour than what they come in with the proper holiday at the right price. But yeah, I think the one thing about life is that if you work in any job, it's vitally important that you like what you do.
Yes. Well, I know one person who likes what she does is Melanie Kehoe. She's living out in Kilmead, and she's texted in and she's asking, where would Sean recommend, where are the great holiday offers now for the coming 12 months, or where are people going to?
People are going to the usual hotspots. Spain and Portugal will always be number one, always number one. Greece is a place that is up and coming, but the one thing that we see is that there's a massive demand for cruising holidays, really, really up and up and up with the amount of new ships that are being built, the new destinations, and the value for money.
And I know we had our Kerry hotelier doing his cruise thing there on television before Christmas. Are cruises just for old people? Oh,
not at all. I mean, they said there's a cruise for everybody in the audience, I suppose. That's the way I put it to you. We get a lot of younger people. It's a big hit with honeymooners, where they're combining it with another destination, either flying to Rome, flying to Barcelona, picking up a Med cruise, flying to Venice, picking up a cruise down to the Greek islands, or into Miami and doing Miami and the Caribbean. So it's a big hit.
And what about other destinations that are offering value for money? Because money can still be tight for people now around the country. If you're looking for some sort of a package, or if you're looking for some place to go and then you're going to be able to work your way through it yourself, are you looking at places like Bulgaria? Are you looking at other new destinations?
Well, places like Slovenia, Slovakia, Bulgaria, all those eastern countries are doing very well. They're value for money price-wise. And, of course, we find there's a lot of demand nowadays for outdoor holidays, walking holidays, camping holidays. The camping holidays are very good for families. And I think that there are some very good offers early season and late season in those destinations.
Okay. And what about the really high-end, high-market, high-spending people? Where are they going, Sean?
They're going to the places that we see here will be certainly Dubai. That's a big seller when it comes to people who want 5-star luxury hotels, right? People that go to the islands, we'll say for example, Antigua, Barbados, those type of places are really high end of the market, but they do extremely well. Bali does well. Anything in Indonesia, Kuala Lumpur, they're all very popular choices and really very, very good hotels in all those destinations.
Okay, and again, what about people going off on weekend breaks? Still an option for people, and it's the value for money that people can get is still quite good there as well, isn't it?
I just costed something for somebody there this morning for a weekend break, 3 nights to Krakow, €320, including your flights and your hotel. You know, there's really good value because, see, the business has changed, Damien. Heretofore, when I came into this business years ago, you could go on a Saturday to a Saturday only, or a Sunday to Sunday.
Yeah.
Now, with the advent of the cheap the low-cost airlines, you can go any day. So you can go on a Tuesday back of a Thursday week. You can go on a Friday back of a Sunday week. You can go on a Monday back on a Friday. So the choice is endless with the scheduled flights on a daily basis. Any
idea? Can you tell us where you're going yourself?
Would you believe I haven't gone away on holidays for the last couple of years?
Would you stop?
I did all that. I did all that years ago when I was building up the business. You know, I was away in Spain there for a few days in December, but that was it.
Where was your first ever holiday, either as part of work or as part of research?
My first ever holiday was in Mallorca, and I had to go via Paris. The plane didn't have the range. I had to fly Dublin to Paris, refuel, and go from Paris to Palma. I remember going to New York.
Who was flying the plane? The Wright brothers, huh?
The Wright brothers, yeah. I got there and back, that's what I tell you.
And you went to New York then another time, did you?
I went to New York. I remember we went on an educational tour to New York. I remember Aer Lingus took us, and it went via Newfoundland. And I think we stopped in Boston as well. We had 2 stops to get there on a small aeroplane. But yeah, I mean, to say the whole thing has changed dramatically since I got into this business.
Yeah, Texter, what about younger children, bringing children away on holidays? Obviously, we've got your Disneylands and Paris Disney and all that sort of things. But in terms of locations for younger children holidays, anything tripping off the top of the tongue?
Yeah, I honestly believe that it has to be a short flight and a short transfer. So like the short flight is down to Faro and a half an hour transfer to a resort down to the Costa del Sol, handy transfer, 10-15 minutes you fly in over. When you're flying in, you come in over Bella Medina and Torremolinos. So all those places are child friendly, and we'd always recommend to families to go to where families only go to, not to go to a resort that has lads or girls that want a bit of high life. So we'd always have to say to people, to find the right holiday for the right people. That's our job. We've got to be impartial.
Yes.
We're not tied to anybody, like some companies are tied that they have to sell their holidays. But no, we're impartial. We can put people to any part of the world, no problem.
Sean, congratulations on the business, 75 years, and to you and everybody in the staff in Harvey Travel there, continued success and the very best to look for the year ahead.
Thank you very much, Damien, and likewise to you and to the station.
Thanks very much, Sean. Good to talk to you. Thanks very much. Talk to you again, okay?
Bye, Damien.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Sean Power there from Harvey Travel on holiday destinations. What do you think? Text us in what your favourite holiday might have been or where you really didn't have a good holiday. Texter Damien, regarding the issue about alcohol, if you don't drink when you go out, you're deemed as being no fun or a dry shite. We're a nation known for our drinking. People always feel the need to live up to that. Until our attitudes towards alcohol changes, there will always be problems here. I drink myself the odd time, but if I decide for any reason to drive instead, people start getting on to me about it, asking me what the hell is wrong with me. If I say I just don't want to drink, they keep saying, go on, have a drink. Sure, you can leave the car here and pick it up tomorrow. I'm in my 40s, so you'd think peer pressure to drink might be a lot less at my age. Mind you, they're all happy to take a lift home at the end of the night. Sure, you can't win, Damien. You can't. Keep your texts and comments coming in. 083 3333 975. Now, Niamh has texted into our WhatsApp number 083 3333 975. Congratulations to Sean and everybody in Harvey Travel. Best wishes for the next 75 years. Thanks from a very fussy couple. Richard, are you a fussy traveller?
Not particularly, no. I except for I don't do boats. I can't go on a boat under any circumstances.
Really?
No, can't.
What about this cruise thing? People are talking about all the cruises.
My worst nightmare.
Really?
My worst nightmare, being stuck on a boat for any more than about 5 minutes.
So in terms of travelling over to France or in the car when the children were a bit younger, bringing them over, did you ever do the car ferry thing?
I did the car ferry once. Never again. Never again. I nearly had to fly home. I was in dread of it. Yeah,
really?
Dread of it. Yeah, no, I get so sick. A total nightmare. Yeah, total nightmare.
There's not claustrophobia or anything, is it?
No, just can't abide it. Can't stand it. I'd rather walk.
Yeah. And yet you'd be a very fit man. You're Richard Hayes, you're Vice President of WIT. I know you do a bit of running and you know what I mean? It's just the tummy, was it?
Yes, yeah. Absolutely. And then I've tried everything. People said, "Oh yeah, what you should have a big fry before you get on the boat." And then other people say, "Oh no, you should eat nothing for 48 hours beforehand." And then somebody else will give you these armbands with pressure points on them, or things made out of copper to put around your neck or whatever. None of them worked for me. Absolute nightmare.
So flying to Spain is better.
Flying to Spain, swimming to Spain would be better. Anything than going on a boat. Yeah,
can't beat it. You're looking forward to the summer.
Looking
forward to the holidays.
Summer, yeah,
When do you take your holidays normally?
So normally I go in July, and we're going to Spain.
When the college is closed down for the summer months.
Yeah.
How old is WIT?
WIT is 50 years old in 2020.
Congratulations.
It's great. It's fantastic. Great cause for celebration. To be able to look back over 50 years of making a contribution to the city and to the region, I think is great.
Why was it originally set up? How was it originally set up?
Well, they were originally set up under what we would know as the ETBs now, but the VECs, and they were really kind of a branch of the VECs looking after technical and vocational education. That was kind of the remit, and with a particular emphasis on the region and regional towns, regional cities. And so they were set up right across the country. Quite a number of them in the first tranche, and then a number came following after a few years later. And, they're very focused from the beginning on that kind of practical, applied learning, all of that, apprenticeships, that type of thing.
Were they originally known as the Regional Technical Colleges?
Regional Technical Colleges. And they originally were in, as I said, they were in under the VEC. And that was their kind of, the governance came from the VEC.
And then when did it become an entity on its own, or when did that change?
Well, I mean, they had a certain independence from the beginning, and then gradually, as the years went by, all of the institutes, or all of the RTCs, as they were then, began to take on more and more authority. Now, WIT or WRTC, as it was then, would have been amongst the first to get the authority to award degrees and so on. So we would have been one of the first in the country to award an honours bachelor's degree. I think it was in computing back in the day. And then as time went on, a number of the institutions began to get essentially more and more like universities, including WRTC and WIT as it is now. So we began to award PhDs and things like that, do research, do all of that stuff.
Do you know how many students were in the college when it started 50 years ago?
I don't
either.
Very, very, very few. But we have been contacted by the first student.
Wow.
Who came in, the person from Tipperary, I think. He was the first in the door on the first day, so we're hoping to do something during the year with him.
Can you remember his name?
I can't remember his name.
Yeah.
And we are in contact with the first principal as he was then, or the first head of the college back then. So we'll be bringing all of this stuff out over the course of the year. But no, it's great. It's great to be able to look back on 5 decades of a contribution, and they've been very, very successful organisations right throughout the country in driving regional development, particularly. So
yeah, we'll talk about the university thing in a few minutes. In terms of the college and how it's grown over the years, how many students do you have full and part-time at present?
At present, we just taken in. We would have taken in about 2,100 students into first year. So that brings us up to about 6,500 full-time students, and then another, say 3,000, 2,500 part-time. So you're at about 8,500 all-in students in the place at the moment. It's somebody asked, how many students do you have? It's kind of a very complex question, very simple question, very complex answer, because it depends on who you count, when you count them. Are you counting full-time, part-time, all of that? But let's say 8,500 wouldn't be far out. Spread across a number of schools, number of discipline areas, 5 campuses, all of that. So the places, I suppose, for people who came in the door on the first day, I'd say they wouldn't recognise WIT now for what it was then,
How many staff are in WIT?
There's about 700 staff, about 450, 500 teaching staff, and then administrative staff, support staff as well. And
then would that include cleaners, and are they extra?
So cleaners will be extra. Yeah,
so you could be talking 1,000 people?
Well, yeah, thereabouts. Yeah, again, depending on the time of year you count and so on. Yeah, but it's a big employer for the city. Yeah.
Yeah, and how much? Who pays for WIT? I heard interviews over the weekend in terms of funding. Students obviously have a certain amount that they pay in themselves. You get money from the government.
Yeah.
It's literally mainly money. Is there a percentage breakdown there?
Largely, it's almost entirely state-funded organisation.
Is it the Higher Education Authority?
Higher Education Authority administers the fund. It comes from the Department of Education, yeah. I mean, it's almost entirely state-funded. I mean, there's a portion of the money obviously comes from the student contribution, because the student makes the 3,500 payment at the start of the year as a registration fee. So that's as it were private money, but some of that, a lot of it comes back again from SUSI, from the Grant Award Authority. So yeah, we're largely state funded, over 90%, I would say, state funded.
Yeah.
Now we draw some money from research funding as well, and that tends to be state money as well, either Irish state or European Union money.
How much money would WIT be on its income on the balance books every year? Do you know?
Gosh, I mean, 70 or 80 million is the kind of money that we bring in, yeah.
70 or 80 million.
Yeah.
It's difficult sometimes when students, and there are students that really find it difficult to pay the registration fee. I know it's not student fees in other countries, but there's still that thing of, it's really difficult for some, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah, it is. I mean, and we're keenly aware of it, because I would say that, in WIT compared to, say, UCD, the portion of students who are from a certain socioeconomic background who are struggling to pay that kind of money is much higher.
Yes.
So yeah, it's something that we're very keenly aware of. I mean, the issue really is around the underfunding of higher education and having to rely on families to find that kind of money.
Yeah.
I mean, that fee was €500 not so long ago, and all of a sudden it's 3,500.
Yeah, that's a
and
massive.
Now this is making up a significant funding deficit in higher education across the board. So in a sense, that's the issue.
What's your plan over the next 12 months, in particular regarding feeder schools and trying to get more of a connection between WIT and schools in the area?
Yeah, well, I'd start by saying that we have a terrific connection with the schools, and our own analysis of the feeder schools data, that is secondary school students coming into WIT, shows that about a third of the students of the region come to WIT. A third of those who do the Leaving Cert come to WIT, roughly.
Okay.
About half the students in Waterford who come out of schools in Waterford come to WIT. About a third of the students in Wexford come to WIT, and about a quarter of the students in Tipperary and Kilkenny come to WIT. And we're by far and away the biggest supplier, if you like, of higher education in the southeast. So I think we're starting from the point of view that we have a terrific base, and I suppose the idea is to try and build on that, to keep encouraging people to think of WT is a good option for their higher education. So far people are doing that.
What do you do to try and increase that? What do you do to try and make that bigger?
Well, I suppose we get out there and bang the drum and let people know what kind of place we're operating and how successful it is and I think talking a bit about the depth of that contribution over the 50 years to the region is part of that. I think I suppose what a lot of parents want to know is my child going to be well looked after, and I think because at the end of the day, a degree from anywhere is a degree, and we're all accredited by the quality body in Ireland, QQI. So you can be assured of the quality of the degree, kind of more or less anywhere. But I think what you can't be assured of is the kind of community that's there, the relationship that the staff have with the students, and I said the extent to which the students are cared for and looked after. And I think we would have a very good track record in that, and a lot of people have come back to us and testified to how kind of well looked after they were in the college.
A number of people said about, obviously there's been difficulties in certain aspects in WIT over the years if there was investigations into money being spent in certain directions. How are you with funding at present? Like, do you ever lay off staff?
No. Like, you can't. We are, as a public service body, we don't have, unless it's made available to us, we don't have a provision for a redundancy scheme, so we don't lay off staff. And
within the college, then, there's a separate company that operates different aspects. They're separate from WIT.
They're an integrated company, but for some purposes they are separate.
And can they make people redundant?
They run. I don't know, to be honest with you. I'm not sure if they have in the recent past. I don't know. I don't know.
Where are we with the university status project and your relationship with Carlow?
Yeah, the relationship with Carlow is good. I think in a lot of these things, I suppose it's a very. How long do we have for me to answer that question?
4 minutes.
4 minutes. Okay. It's the university project is obviously of critical importance to Waterford and to the region, and I think everybody is fully aware of that, fully focused on that, and we're working hard with Carlow to deliver that. I think part of the issue is, these things are not easy. These things are an extremely complex thing to pull off a merger between two organisations that, while they have a common root, and we started with the same kind of legislation and all that, have evolved in very different kinds of ways and very different directions with different kinds of cultures. And I think it's trying to find the levels of complementarity between the two organisations to make it work. And I suppose a cautionary note was sounded last summer because the Munster University project went to a panel for review and it was turned down. And I think this gave everybody pause. We want to make sure this thing is right because we don't want it to fail.
So where are we with the project?
So where we are at the moment is we'll continue to develop the application. We've had a lot of learning now out of the Cork report and out of the review that the panel did there. So that has to sort of be filtered through all of the work that we've done to date. So that's a big piece of work that's ongoing. We're commissioning a change management process as well. That's really going to kick off in the next couple of weeks, which is going to be drawing in a lot more people into the process and really starting really serious discussions around some of the minutiae of mergers.
Is the merger still on course?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. I think there's been. Look, we've been waiting for a university for 20 or 30 years in Waterford,
Longer even. People were talking about it before the RTC was originally established. Yeah, we're looking at newspaper reports.
Back in the 19th century, I think there was discussions about a university in Waterford. It's been frustrated for decades.
I know. I've done interviews with Willie's. I've done interviews with Willie and other people, and there are other colleges in Dublin that have forged ahead.
Yeah.
We are talking about a geographical distance with Carlow. We're also talking about the possibility of a separate campus being mooted in Kilkenny to maybe organise some sort of a the way the civil service works in terms of distances and travels and all that sort of stuff. In terms of the brass tacks, though, where are we in terms of a timeline?
I don't want to commit to a timeline because we want to make sure that this thing is right before it's submitted. Now, if it gets submitted, the review process will take a couple of months. I would be very confident that we will be pushing hard for university in Waterford in 2020. But I can't say, is it going to be next week, the following week, 2 months' time, 3 months, 6 months' time? I don't know. It has to be right. We've waited long enough. What we can't, what would be unconscionable, is for us to make an application that failed, because that would be the end of a university for the city.
Do you think you have enough groundwork done, and with this change management plan being put in place, that you may well have your application ready to submit by June?
I think so, yeah. I think so.
So you think possibly we may have a decision sometime this year?
I think so, yeah.
Okay, that's a timeline enough for
I think it'd be good, and I think for the 50th anniversary it would be nice to be moving on to the next stage. But I think, I would go back to the earlier point. I think at the moment WIT is really filling the gap that a university would normally fill in Waterford. We're very proud of that. We've done it for 50 years now. We've graduated PhD students, over 200 PhD students out into the region. So all of that, I think we can get distracted by this question of university. What we want to do is keep doing what we're doing, which is really positive. Yeah.
Richard Hayes, Vice President for Strategy at WIT, thank you very much. We'll talk to you again later in the months ahead as the plans and all the celebrations continue.
Great, thanks Damien. I look forward to that.